Alright, hello everyone, and thank you for tuning in once again to the Black Box Podcast. BBOR, Black Box Online Radio, coming to you from West Virginia. Today we're going back to 2001, where we're going to be discussing the case of the Metzgermeister, which translates to the Master Butcher in German, and perhaps this guy is also known as Armin Meiwes, who was someone who wrote a rather disturbing ad on the internet. I first heard about this in probably around the year 2006 or 7. I was in college at the time, and somebody told me about the weirdest possible way to die that they had ever heard of. And I was into those shows like 99 Most Bizarre on TLC and, things like that. What's the other one? 1,000 Ways to Die. We had a couple programs out like that. They would talk about, just bizarre incidents. Perhaps we still do. And, we've also had things like My Strange Addiction. We're interested in weird stuff. Humans are just interested in the bizarre. So this really caught my attention when this person was telling me about Armin Meiwes, Der Metzgermeister. And what they were saying is that a man wrote an ad online looking for somebody to cannibalize. And he actually found someone. And that guy went over to his home. They cut off his penis. They ate the penis together. And then the guy slowly bled to death. And, well, then the rest became history. And, for a while, I didn't completely believe her that she's telling me the story. I'm like, it's like a game of telephone or Chinese whispers where maybe some details are a little bit lost, but it turns out that retelling is actually very, very close. And we're actually on a site here called Murder Revisited. And let's have a little bit of an intro into the case of Der Metzgermeister. Armin Meiwes was a 44-year-old computer technician from Rothenburg, Germany, lived alone in a fantasy-filled life. He was born December 1st, 1961. His father was a stern authoritarian who showed little interest in his only child, and when Armin was only 8, his father abandoned the family and had no further contact with him. I'm just going to say right there, just giant red flag. This guy goes on to become famous for eating penis, and he's abandoned by his father. I'm not the biggest fan of Sigmund Freud. In fact, I think Sigmund Freud was probably wrong about a lot of things, but Sigmund Freud would have an absolute field day with this guy. At the age of 12, Meiwes began fantasizing about eating his imaginary friends so that they would remain a part of him always. It's just like, that's one of the things that we deal with these types of cannibalistic murders. I mean, there are many people who have been accused of this, and it's even, dramatized in fiction like Hannibal Lecter and all that stuff. That's what it's about. It's just another form of power and domination. It's like you want someone. It's one of the most absolute forms of domination. We've talked about that saying, rape is not about sex, it's about power. Well, cannibalism really isn't about anything other than just completely dominating a person to the point where you can consume them. It's a pattern that we see with serial killers and murderers. It's just something that is about power tripping. In 1999, when his mother died, Meiwes constructed a shrine to her in their mansion-type home in Rothenburg. He also had a replica of a mannequin's head that he would lay on the pillow next to him each night. Yeah, okay, nothing weird about that. Also, at this time, Meiwes developed an interest in internet pornography that particularly dealt with torture and pain. I'm only saying something because we recently covered the case of Daniel Marsh on this channel about somebody who had some some very big emotional turmoil in life. And with Daniel Marsh, his mother cheated on his father with a woman, and their parents got divorced over that. And one of the ways that Daniel kind of let out his frustrations was getting into gore porn. And you see something very similar here with Armin Meiwes. He's resorting to things that deal with torture and pain, which sounds a lot like the gore porn as well. Excuse me. But it's like, that is something that the people seem to be doing that just makes things worse. It's kind of just like the thing about pornography having to get more and more and more intense. You need something that is just more and more intense to kind of fuel that addiction. Pornography addiction is something that we could perhaps kind of cover a little bit more on this channel because it happens a lot more than we would really think about. And like, I mean, a lot of people report addictions to pornography. And the thing is, it's just like it gets out of control. And with these guys that we've just mentioned, Daniel Marsh and Armin Meiwes, the Metzgermeister, he seems like he was one of the more extreme cases. He eventually found his way into chat rooms that specialized in cannibalism, and in 2000, Meiwes posted a message on the Cannibal Cafe, a website advertising for a young, well-built man aged 18 to 30 to slaughter and then consume. The Cannibal Cafe, huh? Okay. There's some things in life when they say don't judge a book by its cover, but did you know that that's actually only a partial saying? The real thing is don't judge a book by its cover unless it's fucking obvious. Ugh. On February 14th, 2001, Bernd Jürgen Brandes, a 43-year-old engineer from Berlin, responded to Meiwes' post and agreed to be killed and eaten. On the evening of February 25th, 2001, Brandes arrived at the Meiwes house in Rothenburg. Well, there you go. That's exactly how the story was relayed to me the first time I heard this back in 2007. It's just exactly what they were saying, a very bizarre way to die. Somebody willingly responded to the ad, and they said that they would agree to be killed and eaten. You want to talk about a weird way to leave the earth? Maybe, I mean, that could be our challenge question for the day. Can you think of a more bizarre way to die than agreeing to have your penis cut off, severed, and then being killed and eaten? He swallowed 30 sleeping pills. This is talking about Bernd Jürgen Brandes, the guy who agreed to be eaten. He swallowed 30 sleeping pills and consumed a bottle of Vicks cough syrup and then a bottle of schnapps. Then he allowed Meiwes to cut off his penis and bandage him so that the two of them could eat it. Okay, this, once again, I'm on Murder Revisited, but on a different site, they were saying that at first Meiwes tried to actually bite his penis off, like to masticate it off. He tried to bite it and sever it with his teeth, but that was unsuccessful. It was too difficult, so he that's why they had to kind of go about this in the other way of getting his penis off. He had to cut it off with a knife, and so that they could eat it together. Though Brandes tried to eat some of his penis raw, but he claimed that it was too tough and too chewy. Meiwes sauteed the rest of the penis with garlic, salt, and pepper, but ended up burning it. Interesting that he says the penis was too tough and chewy. I knew someone who once went to China and said that she ate serrated sheep penis in China and said that it was very chewy. So, I'm not really big into eating penises, but I hear that penis is a very chewy food from a variety of sources, even from the bazaar. Meiwes assisted Brandes into a warm bath so that he could finish bleeding out and then sat down to read a Star Trek book, naturally. 10 hours later, Brandes was still alive, so Meiwes stabbed him in the neck several times in order to put him out of his pain and suffering. Well, you considerate bastard. The entire death process included the amputation of Brandes' penis, which was recorded on videotape. After Brandes was finally dead, Meiwes hung him on a meat hook. Ooh. Can't even make a joke about that. And stripped chunks of his flesh from his body. He even tried to grind up the bones to make flour. He stored the flesh in plastic bags hidden under pizza boxes and dined on it over the next 10 months. I mean, I know we were talking about Sigmund Freud to introduce this segment, and I know we were saying some stuff about, rejection from your father, so you want to consume masculinity. But even that, doesn't that seem like it's going a little bit too far? Okay, but to get away from the article that we've been reading, it's also like the way that he was caught was he started posting online again for another person to, kind of kill and consume in the same way. And somebody reported him to the authorities, and he was arrested in December of 2002 for that. But the problem is that it's like, what were they going to do with this guy? I mean, what were they going to charge him for? Because the person had responded to the ad and willingly gone over. And that's the next segment here. The case proved to be problematic for the German prosecutors because Baron Brandes, the man that he had consumed, was a voluntary participant, and the fact that at the time of the incident, cannibalism was legal in Germany, Well, it's like cannibalism. Even if that's legal, he still participated in the death of somebody. I think even in America, like if somebody is still participating in like the willful suicide of somebody. I mean, I still believe that that's illegal. So he definitely would be guilty of something. It's just like they just need to decide what do they do with him. But Mivas was convicted and sentenced. He's convicted of manslaughter, sentenced to 8.5 years in prison in 2004. But this is the real interesting part that I was thinking about because 1 year later he was retried because the prosecutors were claiming that the sentence was too lenient. And I was like, what do you mean they was too lenient? That really stood out to me. And they were saying that, well, the guy had consumed all those sleeping pills. He had been drinking. He drank the bottle of schnapps, the cough syrup, and he could not have possibly given consent if he was under the influence of all of those, all of that medication and alcohol. But the thing is, though, it's like, I mean, obviously he voluntarily went there. They must have, the text messages and the sort of like the type of material that would show that he had voluntarily gone there. So I don't really know why they would say that he wouldn't have been able to consent to something like that. But I mean, maybe they mean that he wouldn't have been able to withdraw consent, or that it's just like the laws apply to somebody who's incapacitated no matter what. Like, say, for example, somebody agrees to go over to a person's house. A woman replies to a guy's ad on a dating site, and she voluntarily went over there. She might have even voluntarily agreed to have sexual intercourse with him. But if she drunk and then got drugged and passed out, it probably would still be illegal for him to have sex with her unconscious body because she wouldn't have been able to consent. I guess when you sort of lay it out like that, I mean, I think it seems a little bit clearer that like once he became so incapacitated because of the cough syrup and the sleeping pills and the alcohol, he probably lost his ability to have any consensual function. All right, I can follow that. But on May 10th, 2006, Armin Mivas was convicted of murder, and his 8.5 year sentence was changed to life in prison. Well, I mean, we've definitely covered one of the most bizarre cases ever on this channel, and that is probably one of the most bizarre true crime incidents that I've ever heard about, probably in the top 10. Now, I don't mean the nastiest, I don't mean the most heinous, I just mean the most bizarre and absurd, and the kind of thought process that is not only going on with Armin Mivas, the Metzgermeister guy, the master butcher, but the kind of person who's going to agree to respond to an ad like that. And I mean, there's a lot more to. You probably could find more perspectives on this. It's been turned into kind of fodder for a couple films, and they even quoted this thing on 30 Rock once. They're just getting like, well, some guy in Germany responded to me, but there's in reference to that. And I was looking through all the media that's surrounding this, and I would definitely like to check out more of that out. But what I would really just say is, you got to look at that thing with his father, and I'm really glad that this blog here introduced it that way, that he had that rejection from his father at an early age, and he could never get the attention that he wanted from his father, so he became consumed with the idea of consuming other people, thinking about consuming your imaginary friends. It's just very disturbing. And I mean, I don't know how much he confessed that to other people, how much he confided in other people. But even if somebody is telling you that, yeah, I got an imaginary friend, his name is Bob or his name is Joe, I think about eating him, people would just be like, okay, that's weird, I don't want to talk to you. But would they really like report you to the authorities? Thinking about eating your imaginary friend isn't really a crime, and I don't even know if that qualifies in any sort of diagnostic criteria for any sort of mental illness at all. But this is definitely one of the weirder things that we've ever talked about, and I don't think we're going to cover too many more cases like this. Sometimes, though, we do get pulled into the to a fascinating side of the bizarre, even if it's the disgusting kind of bizarre. And I think one of the reasons why so many sort of television shows like 30 Rock would kind of make fun of this. They also made a film about this with Kerry Russell, although it's just inspired by the event. It's not really a biography or anything. I think they can make fun of this one because of the participant willingly went over there. This wasn't like a rape or an attack or a savage targeting, like a savage sexual predator. The participant really willingly went over there in a very bizarre incident. So that's why they're sort of kind of approaching it in somewhat of a lighthearted manner, whereas they probably wouldn't be making fun of like a genuine rape or a genuine sexual assault that led to this person's death. It's more just two guys ended up in a very bizarre incident where they decided to cut off one of their penises and try and eat it together. And it's a messed up world. That's all I can really say. And child psychology runs deep. Sigmund Freud wasn't right about everything, but I mean, child psychology runs deep. By the way, this thing, Murder Revisited, is actually from murderrevisited.blogspot.com. One of the first times in a long time that I've read anything from Blogger or Blogspot. Do you guys still read those, like anything blogspot.com, or is that a thing of the past? I mean, just kind of curious about that. And their tagline on here, like the caption is, there are four kinds of homicide: felonious, excusable, justifiable, and praiseworthy. And that quote is from Ambrose Bierce, 1842 to 1914. That guy Ambrose Bierce, he might be the guy that I might think he had some insightful things to say, but I would not want to share a cab with him going anywhere. What do you have to say about this case, Der Metzgermeister, the master butcher? If you have anything to say at all, I would love to hear from you, and until next time.